The drummer get wicked.
Hiya, Manic Bestia here, and welcome back to Wicked Tunes. You already know the deal by now. One theme, 6 of my highly biased recommendations. Have you ever scrolled through an album page, looked at the lengthy description and thought, wow, I ain't got time for that shit? Well, you know what? Me too. They're usually bullshit anyway. But every now and then, there's actually something of substance written down there, which may even be shedding some light on the themes of the album. So, if you don't already know, a concept album uses the songs within to tell a cohesive story. Think of The Wall by Doug Walker, or Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, or if you listen to Dungeon Synth, pretty much any album from that genre. Concept albums don't need to be overt with their narrative either. Many records tell their own abstract stories, even without the need for creative writing or music videos. But for my list, I tried to include artists who do have a clear intention of telling a story through electronic dance music, a genre which is commonly known for not having any themes at all, besides, you know, hallucinogenics. Very few artists are brave enough to pull off such an ambitious idea, and fewer still are able to do it coherently. So here are the ones I think are actually worth a damn.
Keep it wicked, wicked you.
Let's start with the most successful out of the 6, Tidal Memory EXO. I could dedicate an entire video to Iglooghost and his storytelling, oh my god. He discovered this underground fantasy world of scum and magic known as lay music, which was demonstrated in a radio broadcast he made a few years ago.
Lay music, spelled L-E-I music, is a mysterious subgenre that's practiced in the area of rural Britain that I grew up in. When lay music is performed, it summons a strange entity or life form out of thin air, which then disappears after the song is finished.
Recently, Igloo made Tidal Memory EXO while living in a rural seaside town somewhere off the coast of England. The storm in the area causes strange, otherworldly, primordial garbage to be washed up to shore, leaving the place isolated from the rest of the country. Igloo was able to brave the conditions and learn from the local junk hoarders, who had their own music scene forming at the time. Tidal Memory EXO follows up from his lay music broadcast as Igloo continues his research into mythical, undiscovered music.
Sorry, it looks like your signal.
The album cover alone speaks 1,000 words, and matches the sonic characteristics perfectly. Vocals drenched in reverberation emulate ocean waves crashing against the beach. Sharp percussion pierce through the mix like a rusted sheet of metal protruding from the sand. Sea salt in the air, a cold breeze bellowing beneath an overcast sky. The only thing missing from this album is the deafening sound of the wind, but I guess that wouldn't be very enjoyable for most people to listen to. Iglooghost's iconic drill and bass drums complement his grime vocals fantastically, mixing Eastern instrumentation and majestic synth pads into the background amidst a junk-filled rock pool of ear candy bleeps and strange synthesized creature noises. Normally his music is sung in a fantasy language, but this is the first album he's made where he's actually performed most of the songs in English. Inspired by trilobites, Bionicle, and the bleak, scum-filled beaches I am oh so familiar with thanks to the always raining beaches of Wales, part spiritual, part dystopian, Iglooghost's latest musical adventures show a clear influence from his surroundings. Having grown up in the UK myself, I've lived around these scummy beaches, these ancient woodlands, and I've experienced our cultural mixing pot of European influences. Iglooghost doesn't shy away from representing his surroundings with art, resulting in a weirdly personal reflection of our country, which only heightens the immersion of the stories for me. His follow-up, Bronze Claw ISO, continues the narrative into an industrial era.
Bronze Claw ISO.
Transhumanism and existential dreams of slugs, invertebrates and centipedes crawling through the gunk are just a few of the vapid images that appear when playing this disc. Iglooghost just keeps evolving his sound into weirder and more inspired concepts. Boundless creativity with the backbone of incredible talent, Tidal Memory EXO is a beautifully characterful album, with an atmosphere so dense you can practically smell the moisture from it. I recommend listening to this after having a shower.
You're listening to
Wicked Tunes. shortly after I discovered Predawka from their modern classic Arrhenius in 2024, Quasi-Organic suddenly appeared in my subscription feed just over a year later. This was especially astonishing when you consider the fact that this album comes with its own full-length animated film. In his own words, an animated movie I created for my music album, which initially was an attempt to blend acoustic and electronic instruments, but with the loss of a dear pet, evolved into a project in which I wanted to honour him and share some deep personal thoughts that surfaced at the time. The sheer scope of this blew my goddamn brains out. Sure, most of the animations are just loops which change over time, but so is music. Predawka brings their familiar glitchy breakbeat percussion and acoustically rich melodies into this album with confidence, interweaving warped, distorted synth tones that evoke the melancholic atmosphere often found in many Soviet-era animations and art. Much like Iglooghost, Predawka reflects the influence from his culture, that culture being Moscow. Imagery of passing trains, imagery of ever-watching eyes, imagery of commie blocks with vacant windows, but the album isn't all bleakness, far from it. Most of the time you'll be whisked away by these gorgeous, uplifting bit-crusher melodies, accompanied by the grooviest of bass lines and the funkiest of drum patterns this side of Eastern Europe. Around about the halfway point is where things take a turn. A heavy respace is layered beneath these haunting, echoing, chopped-up choir samples. Suddenly, gunners, hundreds, faceless. What was once a peaceful stroll down Leningrad quickly escalates into a violent war zone. The latter half of the album is my favourite. It's filled with sombre and gentle melodies amidst the ever-present drums of war. Our main character, the sailor, whose real name is Marina Seal, is the brother of the dancer, who first appeared in Arrhenius. She chose to stay behind as the sailor embarks on a journey with his pet, Sheldon. This journey, and his sudden return, are the events we see depicted in the animation. The sense of reminiscing and all the emotions which come with it are nothing short of beautiful. It feels like an ancient fairy tale or Greek epic, especially with all the paintings Predawka made to service this world. I love his neon chalkboard-esque art style too. If this kind of work doesn't inspire you in one way or another, then I don't know what to say. All things considered, I still think Arrhenius is my favourite album of theirs, but Quasi-Organic hits me on that emotional level that very few albums can, especially when watching the film alongside it. To say I'm excited to see where this world goes next would be a massive understatement. Groke is an extremely underrated electronic artist who strives for quality over quantity.
What's that? A user on our platform doesn't farm engagements 24/7. Kill them immediately.
I used to call Groke the king of effects, since most of the sounds he uses are drenched in some sort of flanger, phaser or vocoder, resulting in some of the most distinct and otherworldly songs I've ever heard. So imagine my shock when he decided to drop a full-length album on us. The concept of each track is based on one of the 10 poems in Paradise Lost, written by John Milton in 1667, just after he caused the Great Fire of London. This one's quite strange, honestly. It's like the Bible if it was written in the medium of psychedelic trance and trap music. At first, it seems quite normal, with the cello representing Adam and Eve as the flute, similar to how different characters are represented in Peter and the Wolf. But in this album, there's no narration, not even singing. Everything is conveyed musically with instruments and synthesis. Oh, and a lot of choir samples. Once you get around to track 4, Dreaming of Winged Shapes, the album shows its true colours. A synthetically organic melodic deep dub arrangement which melds genres seamlessly into a pulsating tapestry of sound. Perfectly transitioning into the next track, The Story of Fallen Angels. This song is a masterpiece. 7 minutes of tension, release, and a mysterious atmosphere with a subtle glitchiness and the eerie sense of an inhuman presence. When it starts to wind down, the instrumentation opens up as the choir fades in from the background and lifts the dark instrumentation above the veil. The pipe organ swells into the foreground as we gently descend into the latter half of the album with Creation. After a quick return to the lush jungles of Paradise, Shady Bank combines Eastern influences into a mysterious, sinister undergrowth that lures you in with a hypnotic pull humanity can't resist. The penultimate piece, Dies Irae, is a 10-minute epic that beyond justifies its length. The moods of the song keep changing but always seamlessly flow into each other. Long, purposeful transitions which slowly thread in and out of vignettes depicting biblical visions of angels, demons, and thunderous heavens cascading over meadows of fire. This whole album is just one of the most unique and moving depictions of Christian mythology I've ever experienced. Get that Bible shit out of here, this is all you need. The artwork for the album was also made by Groke's mum, Tamsin, whose paintings perfectly complement the vision with these vibrant stained glass depictions of Paradise Lost. Please release this on vinyl, Madzu! This album needs to be pressed! If you like this one, I'd also strongly recommend Groke's previous EP, The Dark Deep. It explores themes of deep-sea creatures using some really funky alien synth sounds. Groke is still putting out mad tunes even now. Over and New Dawn have been stuck in my head for the past, well, 4 months now. Show him some love, goddammit!
You're listening to Wicked News.
Released under the now defunct experimental drum and bass label Meth Lab Recordings, Lost Souls recounts its story through a brooding combination of neurofunk, dubstep, and cinematic sound design. The music pulsates with an overbearing heaviness. There's a vast sense of scale thanks to the expertly fine-tuned reverb, which inhales and exhales between the explosive snare drums and thumping kick pedals. This was the trio's debut full-length album as Audeka. It established their formidable sound with a new storytelling lens, and remains to be their largest and most ambitious project to date. I think the best way to experience this album is to read the story along while you listen to it. The unique artwork for each track conjures yet more vivid imagery, devoid of all colour and heavy in contrast. Dark fantasy brutalism meets abstract calligraphy paintings in this non-corporeal fairy tale. The story of a cross-dimensional catastrophe, the loss of a loved one, and the desire for revenge, resulting in the ultimate sacrifice. To be honest, the broad strokes of the story are as basic as it gets, but the vocabulary and world-building harnessed to convey these narratives do inspire a certain sense of awe. There exists a forgotten future dimensional plane, a time and place where technology is indistinguishable with magic and black science is pursued by those who wish to unlock the secrets of reality. In the depth of the planet's darkest night, whilst the village of Ithrain slept in the embrace of the mountains above, a trio of explorers of the veil between dimensions were about to break the barrier between this universe and the next. I talked about liminal empty spaces in my last video, and this album matches that aesthetic really well actually, almost to a fault even. I feel like some of the tracks overstay their welcome a little, so, you need to be patient with it. The atmosphere Audeka created is nothing shy of bleak, overbearing, and discomforting. The few moments of harmony and vocals we get are backed by the same impending tribalistic drums and hollow atmospheric synth drones. Which is cool, I do love the sound, but maybe not stretched out to this runtime. A little more variety and progression within each of the tracks would have been nice to hear. Track 3, Oracle, has to be my favourite off this album. It's melancholic, melodic, and synthonically rich with some of the most colourful production on the whole project. If you enjoyed the sound of Lost Souls, I'd have to recommend their follow-up project, Engine Block. It's also a concept album of sorts, although without a story, theming all of its sounds around how an engine works. It's a mechanical collage of heavy and impactful sound design that I actually enjoy a lot more than Lost Souls. That's right, this whole segment was just a Trojan horse so I could talk about how fucking sick Engine Block is instead. Audeka have since split up and now only consists of a single member, so it's possible we may never see a project of this scope from them ever again.
6 of the sickest!
Alon Moore's music is shrouded in mystery. Having worked in the underground drum and bass scene for decades, creating some of the most forward-thinking and cinematic pieces of heavy electronic music anyone had ever heard. Singles like Ocelot and The Fifth Collage blew everyone else's production out of the water with their intricacies and sound design. Long Awaited Journey is his third full-length album, and to me the most cohesive. The attention to detail is unfathomable. Each drum sound is expertly crafted with a maximalist amount of organic Foley effects that expand and contract around you. The orchestral arrangement preceding each of the drops is layered with these groovy, syncopated synth leads, which accelerate the sense of rising tension through the roof. Layers, layers, layers! Rhythm guitars, choirs, and field recordings swell in and out of the scene around you. When you eventually get to Holly's Necklace, you're greeted by one of the hardest hitting synthwave drops, coupled with Alan Moore's signature dynamic production. This is probably the most normal song on the album, but even when working with these very neurotypical song structures and 4/4 rhythms, Alan Moore just keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire way. This album is pure ear candy. If you're a sound design freak like me, this album is like a masterclass in mixing harmony with noise. Even the quietest moments are filled with the tiniest details occupying each corner of the frame. It paints a picture of bustling environments, living, breathing worlds. The stop-start nature of tracks like Late Night Skyline helps to keep you on your toes. I must have heard this album dozens of times by now, but it still catches me off guard every now and then, whether it be because of an unexpected chord change or a sudden stop. Truth be told, the story of this album has never been revealed, but there is so much to dig into. There's themes of regret, moving on from mistakes, and the fear of the future. Some hints are given through Alan Moore's voice, speaking to someone, then to himself, before eventually being consumed by a black hole of collapsing Foley and rumbling basses. There's mention of a bridge, the man beyond the bridge. What the bridge represents and what you imagine beyond it are subjective, however. I imagine the bridge to be some sort of mythical gateway which the main character of the story is trying to find. He believes that beyond the bridge, all of his problems will be solved. The heavier moments of this record feel like the earth is splitting beneath you, as if you're stepping into someone else's dream without being invited.
Is it all random or is it all planned?
My favourite song, Tyche's Singing, Tyche is the Greek god of luck by the way, that's also one of the themes of the album, features the longest monologue by Alan. The immersion here is next level. I can still see the visions the song conjured in my mind when I first heard it all those years ago. And how it progresses to, there's no other word for it, it's epic, okay? It's epic, it's fucking epic! Songs like this are almost beyond description. Lie down, close your eyes, and you'll see what I mean.
How can I give out the moon like I promised back then?
The reason the opening track is titled Wax Tape 5 is because Earwax is actually a continuation of the larger Six Impala saga. But it's my favourite, so that's what I'm talking about tonight. What are you going to do about it?
6.
Why do you feel like your friends just don't feel left out?
We follow this character named Simon through what can only be described as a hyper-reality clusterfuck of different little moments that feel like the maximalist opening to a kid's animated movie, where you're introduced to every character and mechanic of the world at 1,000,000 miles per minute. I love some of the melodramatic moments of this album. It's so dynamic and over the top. The voice acting is like perfectly ridiculous, but it's still professionally produced. Like if a Pixar movie was written by a fucking psycho on crack and put into audiobook form.
Okay. I just want to get Rob and Clara back.
As for the musical parts of this album, they're just insane. 90s punk rock meets IDM glitch and hyperpop in this grimy, colourful, graffiti-stained collage of noise. It won't cure your ADD, but it might upgrade it to ADHD instead. The sound design is super distorted, but also really melodic, and it paints some of the most batshit crazy imagery in your mind that can't seem to sit still for more than a millisecond. When you get to the track WDFLYA, don't know what that means, you may think your speakers are broken, but rest assured, this is only a test. The reason I've saved this album until last on my list. If you've gotten this far, then you've reached the fucking bone zone. Six Impala just kind of does whatever the fuck, and I love it. The album isn't non-stop chaos though, there's a few little moments of introspection dotted throughout, which are then quickly obliterated by some insane kick and twisted bass noise, which ruptures your rectum and makes your hair turn green and your mouth filled with blue oil. If any of what I just said made sense to you, then you need to listen to the full story yourself, because amidst all the insane tone shifts and schizo screaming, the storytelling moments are barely comprehensible beyond some interlude moments here and there. It's best to just kind of go with it. Six Impala's sporadic use of cinematic sound design is impeccable, uniquely weird and technically inspiring. I'm the kind of person who admires artists who take risks with weird new sounds, and I'm eternally grateful that the internet has given people like this the opportunity to easily share or even become successful from their weird art bullshit that makes no goddamn sense. To any aspiring artists out there, I hope these albums inspire you to create whatever crazy stories you've thought of, no matter the limitations. Just neglect all your responsibilities and make it happen. And for all you mindless consumers, buy their music, leave comments on all their pages, and keep sharing these albums, even years after they've been released. If you really love a piece of art, don't let it be forgotten about after the hype cycle is over. That's just what big tech companies want, a bottomless pit of vapid content. This is why lost media keeps disappearing, no one's around to support it. And on the internet especially, you never know when that thing that you love the most will suddenly be gone, forever. That reminds me, actually, I've got a really important research project I need to work on. Or should I keep making low effort list videos? Let me know in the comments. Actually, don't let me know. I've already decided. I'm gonna start a cooking channel.